Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Alwyn here. I hope you guys are all having a wonderful day. As always, couple stimulus updates today, so let's get right into those. So President-elect Joe Biden has announced that his plans for the second stimulus package would be further announced on Thursday, and this will in fact exceed $1 trillion. So it's going to be a pretty big package. I would expect anywhere from $2 to $3 trillion. But all we know as of now is that it's going to be greater than $1 trillion. Biden was asked whether moving forth with the process of impeaching President Trump would cause any delays or any slowdowns with the second stimulus package. However, Biden insisted that the impeachment process would not delay the stimulus package. President-elect Biden said that he is currently speaking with the senators in order to see how they can effectively split their time and their schedule in order to accommodate for both the impeachment process of President Trump and the second stimulus package. Nancy Pelosi is moving forward with her impeachment of President Trump. However, some congressmen and congresswomen are not happy and believe that the stimulus package should be their top priority, not impeachment. Pelosi has ordered the politicians in the House to return back to the Capitol tomorrow, so that the House can move forward on their votes to impeach President Trump. Politicians from both sides are saying that Nancy Pelosi is uncompromising and is not acting in favor of the American people. Pelosi denied that she was uncompromising and had any form of an uncompromising attitude, and said that it was the fault of the Republicans that held up the second stimulus package and the second stimulus check. Pelosi defended herself when she was prompted that she also played a role in delaying the much larger check that was agreed upon by the Republicans because she did not want President Trump to look good during the times of the 2020 elections. However, Pelosi did respond by saying that we held it up because there was no respect for our heroes, state and local healthcare workers, police and firefighters, first responders, sanitation workers, food workers, and teachers. So she said those were the reasons for which they held up any form of stimulus, not just because the Republicans passed them and she didn't want to make President Donald Trump look good during the time of the 2020 presidential election. In a survey, it says that 6 out of 10 Americans are in need of additional stimulus aid, and only 4 out of 10 Americans are ready to handle unpredicted bills of over $1,000. It is stated that the wait between the CARES Act and the $600 second stimulus check package really caused a lot of struggle for many American families and the economy as a whole. Jackson Hewitt customers who had their stimulus checks directed to an incorrect or wrong bank account will have their payments starting February 1st. So these customers were originally told that they would have to claim these checks on their 2020 tax filings, but the IRS is now working to resend as many of the payments as possible through either direct deposits, paper checks, or prepaid debit cards. The Democrats in the House presented a bill calling on Mike Pence to remove President Trump from office by invoking the 25th Amendment. However, it was blocked pretty quickly by the House Republicans yesterday. The Democrats now will move on to voting on President Trump's impeachment, which is scheduled for tomorrow morning on the House floor. The impeachment will charge President Trump with incitement of insurrection. The impeachment is expected to pass in the House, which will make President Trump the first president in the U.S. history to be impeached not once, but twice. Then once President Trump's impeachment is passed in the House, it will progress onwards towards the Senate to be voted on and passed. But keep in mind, Senate Majority Leader as of now, Mitch McConnell, he will have to agree with the impeachment process, and this is very unlikely to happen until the senators will get back from their vacations on January 19th. However, Minority Leader Chuck Schumer does want to use emergency powers in order to get the senators back earlier in order to move forward with the impeachment process. However, this will require the approval of Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who is very unlikely to grant those powers. Impeaching President Trump could cause delays for the stimulus bill, as I stated, and many other bills that President-elect Biden may want to pass once his administration comes into office on January 20th. Senator Ocasio-Cortez stated that for every hour and minute Trump is in office represents a clear and present danger, not only to the U.S. Congress, but frankly, to the country. So she's definitely experiencing and voicing her fears about what President Trump can do in this 1.5 weeks leading up until the inauguration on January 20th. Most Americans are on either sides of the argument. It's a pretty controversial argument, I would say. There's always two sides to the argument. Whether, President Trump might be a danger in this last week and a half, that he's still in office, and whether he should be impeached or removed from office. Others are saying that it would not be a good use of resources. It would cause more turmoil, more problems would come up for that. So there's a lot of things to both sides of the argument. But 52% of voters want President Trump to be impeached, while 48% rather wait it out, not spend the resources, and they don't want additional risk to take place as a result of his impeachment or removal from office. The FBI has been searching for most of the people that posted anything on social media, anybody that was in Capitol Hill causing violence that day. Most of the people were openly posting and self-incriminating themselves. Many are now in jail and they will be sentenced to prison as a result of trying to inflict harm and coming into the U.S. Congress and trying to promote violence. Many people are very angry additionally by Senator Hawley and his claims to check for any potential, just a check for potential voter fraud, and this has led to a pretty big impact on his own life, as well as what we'll see here, his short clip of Senator Hawley speaking with a reporter regarding his book and that publishing process.
Senator, thanks so much for coming on. So you're now one of the most despised people in America, so I appreciate your taking the time for being hated to come on the show tonight. But I want to ask you specifically about what happened between you and Simon & Schuster. And I should say I published with Simon & Schuster. I have a book contract for a future book with Simon & Schuster. It's making me very uncomfortable watching what they did to you. On what ground did they cancel your book contract?
Well, they don't like the exercise of free speech, Tucker, I think, is at the end of the day. I mean, this is really about the First Amendment. It's really about free speech. And Simon & Schuster didn't like me doing what Democrats in Congress did in 2001 and 2005 and 2017 when Democrat members of Congress objected during the certification process in order to try to have a debate about election integrity. That's the First Amendment at work. That's democracy at work. But Simon & Schuster, and unfortunately a lot of people on the left now, have decided that the First Amendment is something they no longer support. And I'll just say this, Tucker, at a time of division, we've got to rally around the things that unites us as Americans, and I think the First Amendment and free speech has got to be at the top of that list.
So if some creepy low IQ politician says, I want to shut down the other side, okay, I get it. But a publisher is literally the guardian of the First Amendment. If you're a publisher, you exist because of the First Amendment. Your duty is to protect the First Amendment. But the people who run Simon & Schuster are now so crazed with ideology that they can't bear to hear a contrary view expressed? I mean, what does that portend for the country?
Well, I think it really shows, Tucker, that we're in a period where the First Amendment values and principles of freedom of speech, also freedom of worship, freedom of religion, these things are really under attack by some quarters, by many quarters. And again, I come back to the fact that this is something, the First Amendment is something that unites us as Americans. And in this time of division, in this time of chaos, we've got to stand strong for that.
So from here we can see that Senator Hawley had a book contract with another company which canceled their contracts with him and the book as a result of potentially spurring such riots as a result of his claim that there must be at least a check for voter fraud, which he believes definitely infringes his rights to the First Amendment. Next, we will have to take a look at what President Trump had to say surrounding big tech companies today, given that a lot of his platform has been taken down as a result of his permanent Twitter ban. So nobody can post on his behalf. He can't use anybody else's Twitter account. He can't have his own Twitter account for his entire life. It's a permanent deal. He cannot use Twitter any longer. And the Facebook ban until January 20th. So let's see President Trump's response today to these big tech companies here.
They're dividing and divisive, and they're showing something that I've been predicting for a long time. I've been predicting it for a long time, and people didn't act on it. But I think big tech has made a terrible mistake and very, very bad for our country. And that's leading others to do the same thing. And it causes a lot of problems and a lot of danger. Big mistake. They shouldn't be doing it. But there's always a counter move when they do that. I've never seen such anger as I see right now. And that's a terrible thing. Terrible thing. And you have to always avoid violence, and we have tremendous support. We have support probably like nobody's ever seen before. Always have to avoid violence.
What is your role in what happened at the Capitol? What is your personal responsibility?
So if you read my speech, and many people have done it, and I've seen it both in the papers and in the media, on television, it's been analyzed, and people thought that what I said was totally appropriate. And if you look at what other people have said, politicians at a high level, about the riots during the summer, the horrible riots in Portland and Seattle and various other places, that was a real problem, what they said. But they've analyzed my speech and my words and my final paragraph, my final sentence, and everybody to the T thought it was totally appropriate. Okay, thank you.
So from that we can see he does claim that big tech companies are making a huge mistake which causes big problems for the nation, not just himself. He does claim that violence must be avoided at all costs, but does not answer any questions about his impeachment proceedings. Finally, let's take a look at President Trump's thoughts on this past week and all the events that have occurred, all the rioting that's occurred, all the protests that have occurred, and how he views the transition of powers.
And now I'd like to briefly address the events of last week. Millions of our citizens watched on Wednesday as a mob stormed the Capitol and trashed the halls of government. As I have consistently said throughout my administration, we believe in respecting America's history and traditions, not tearing them down. We believe in the rule of law, not in violence or rioting. Because of the pandemic, horrible, horrible, invisible enemy, and despite our tremendous success developing a vaccine years before it was thought evenly remotely possible. Nobody thought it was going to be possible. They said it would take 5 years. Sir, it will take 7 years. All of our scientists were saying, our advisors, it will take 7 years, 5 years, 10 years maybe. Well, we did it just like I said we would, and we had it out years and years before they thought it was possible. And we're now delivering it to states, including your state, where your governor and government are doing a terrific job in getting it administered in Texas. And Florida's doing great. Some of them are doing great. Some aren't doing as well. But they have all they can handle, and we get it to them as fast as they need it, and even faster. But they're calling it a medical miracle, and this has been a difficult year and a very difficult election. The pandemic has made it a very, very difficult year for our country and virtually every country all over the world. Now is the time for our nation to heal, and it's time for peace and for calm, respect for law enforcement and the great people within law enforcement, so many are here, is the foundation of the MAGA agenda. And we're a nation of law, and we're a nation of order.
So as we can see from the video, he is very optimistic about the vaccine distribution during his time in office and calls out such states such as Texas and Florida for doing a great job, while other states weren't as good. He definitely gives himself a pat on the back for the quick scientific upbringing and the smooth distribution of vaccines. He does emphasize that the respect to law enforcement and peace is a must. Additionally, now there are many thoughts and concerns about the Insurrection Act and whether or not President Trump has called for it. So here are some more details on the Insurrection Act. So the Insurrection Act was created in 1807 as a way of using the U.S. military to deal with domestic or internal issues that have gone out of hand. Usually the American military is only used on foreign grounds, but the Insurrection Act will allow the military to be used on our domestic territory. Many people are now concerned with the upcoming presidential inauguration. There is a lot of concern about the violence that may be spurred by pro-Trump supporters. So they are looking to call for this so that way, capitals and governments across the nation will not be in any potential danger. However, at this point, it has not been confirmed. Let me repeat, it has not been confirmed that President Trump has invoked the Insurrection Act as of now. People are saying that there are 15,000 National Guards moving to D.C. within the next coming days for extra security during the inauguration event. In the last few days, President Trump has signed the emergency declaration. giving aid over the DC area until January 24th to ensure that before and after the inauguration date, there are safe grounds at the Capitol. Hopefully you guys all learned something new and enjoyed today's video. I thank you all so much for your continued support. I do appreciate it tremendously. Make sure to drop a like down below. It does help my channel a lot. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Turn on those post notifications so that way you're aware of when I do upload my next video. Comment down below. Till next time. Peace.